I wanted to take the time to work through some of the problems from the handout I gave you guys on the metric system and unit conversions. And the reason I'm going to spend a video on just one problem is if you do not understand how to do unit conversions, you're going to be in a lot of trouble in this course or any science-based math course. I should say science course that has some math component to it, because unit conversions are absolutely critical to problem solving skills. It's about problem solving, and once you learn how to think through a problem, before you even pick up your calculator or even your pencil, you're in much better shape than you would be if you're just kind of winging it. So, problem 1C. I have 2,105,000 kilometers, and I want to figure out how many yards that is. Now, 2,105,000, I'm going to first convert this to scientific notation just to make the number a little easier to work with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this gives me 2.105 times 10 to the 6th kilometers. And the reason I did that is, one, it makes the number a little easier for me to put in my calculator and deal with it, and I now know I have 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. So my answer can only have 4 significant figures or less when I'm finished. With dimensional analysis, we put down the value of what we're given, and we draw out this grid, and it usually is longer than you need. I'm not kind of writing large, so I probably need more space. At the end of this line, we put an equal sign, and then we put the unit of what we want. That is so critical, I can't stress that enough, because how do you know you're done if you don't know what the unit is? Now, we differentiate our conversion factors by this line. All I'm doing on this grid, everything on top I'm going to multiply through, everything on bottom I divide through. So now, how do we go from kilometers to yards? In the handout I gave you, there were many conversion factors. I've got 1 yard equals 3 feet, and that's about it as far as going directly from yards to anything else. I don't have a yard to kilometer, so we're going to have to think through how can we get into the unit of yard. I also give you feet to inches and inches to centimeters, so that should help. Centimeters is a metric unit, so is kilometer. So let's work our way towards centimeter, since there is a way to get from the English unit to the metric unit using centimeters to inches, which again is given exactly. So 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. The only unit conversions I expect you to memorize, to know how to do without looking at a chart, are the metric system conversions. Kilometers through, kilo through milli. Everything in between, you should know how to do that. And again, kings have dungeons under dark castle moats. Memorize that and learn how to do it. So now, sticking with our problem, kilometers cancel, now I'm in meters. So I'm getting closer. I don't have inches to meters, but I do have inches to centimeters. So 1 meter is 100 centimeters. Notice I'm not trying to go directly from kilometers to centimeters. You could do that, but I like to do this piecemeal. It makes it less likely that I'm going to move, the decimal point over and be off by a factor of 10. So be systematic. If you're more comfortable with just saying, well, I can do it in my head of how to go from kilometers to centimeters, that's fine too. Meters cancel out, now I'm in centimeters. Okay, so now I've given you that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters exactly. A little sloppy there. Now this is an exact definition, which actually means it will have an infinite number of significant figures. So even though mathematically it looks like I've rounded to 3 significant figures, since it's an exact definition, I still haven't lost any of my sig figs. Same with meter to centimeter, that's an exact definition, so we don't have to worry about that. So now, centimeters cancel, I'm in units of inches, so I'm getting a lot closer. 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. Again, that was given to you. Inches cancel. Now I'm in units of feet. And so close. By the way, in your mind, you might be able to go, well, I know there are 36 inches in 1 yard, and then use that conversion. But I didn't give that to you. So if you do know that, then that's fine. Or you can do it systematically. The last conversion, 3 feet, is equivalent to 1 yard. They cancel. Now I'm in the unit of yard. So I've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unit conversions. But that's okay because my last unit is yard, and that is what I want. So now, after all of that, now you pick up your calculator and do the math. So 2.105 times 10 to the 6th times 1,000 times 100 divided by, 2.54, not good for myself, not good for my solar powered calculator, divided by 12 and divided by 3. And I ended up with, and I'm going to write this out, 2, 3, 0, 2, 0, 5, 5, 9, 9, 3 yards. That's what my calculator gives me. Let me double check that since the power literally went out, or not the power, but the lights went out as I did this. Times 1,000. Yes, so that's correct. First, does that make sense? Well, kilometers are very large, right? We measure distances that cars travel in kilometers. A yard is about that big. So if I have 10 to the 6th kilometers, well, I should have a large number of yards. Now, I've intentionally written it out this way because that's how my calculator spits out the numbers. But that has a lot more than 4 significant figures. So what you want to do at this point is convert it to scientific notation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So my final answer, 2.302 times 10 to the 9th yards. I haven't set it on my calculator, but there are ways that you can actually tell your calculator, give me the answer in scientific notation, no matter what its value is. But I intentionally wrote it out this way just to show you that your calculator doesn't know what you're trying to do. Your calculator just gives you a number. But in this case, we have a unit of measure, so we must take into account significant figures. If it's just a math problem where everything's assumed to be infinitely accurate, then sure, you could put that down. But here, this was measured to 4 significant figures, so my final answer can only have 4 significant figures or less. Each one of our conversions actually has an infinite number of significant figures because they're exact definitions. But again, learning how to do this systematically is a bit of a challenge if you've never seen this before, so it takes practice. Kilometers to meters, meters to centimeters, centimeters to inches, inches to feet, feet to yard. Multiplying on top, dividing through on the bottom. It's just algebra. You could do this piecemeal. You could convert from kilometers to meters, get a number, then plug in that number to go to centimeters and so forth. But again, with dimensional analysis, factor label, I don't pick up my calculator until I'm finished as far as the unit conversions. Then I plug it in, get the number, and it's always a good idea to think about physically what does that number represent. Kilometers are large, yards are much smaller, so 10 to the 9th versus 10 to the 6th, that makes a lot of sense. And then of course significant figures. So there's my final answer after all that.